You know, art takes many forms, yet it all starts with an idea or a concept from inside the artist's mind. Welcome to Inside the Artist's Mind. I'm your host, Trey Goodman. Today we're going to have a very special guest on the show, art advocate, musician, and multi-art business owner, Kimber Lanning. We sat down with Kimber at the downtown Phoenix bar, The Lost Leaf. So Kimber Lanning, welcome to Inside the Artist's Mind.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. And we're here at the Lost Leaf in downtown Phoenix, one of my favorite places to hang out.
I love it. I'm here all the time.
It's a great place.
Yeah.
Well, you are, I'm going to read this. You're a musician, you're an entrepreneur, you're an arts advocate, and you're a community activist. So the first question I got to ask you is, like, when do you sleep? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I have a lot of plates spinning. I do. But it's just important to me to try to do as much as you can. I think that there's a lot of people who aren't really attacking life. Yeah. You know, they just sort of let life happen to them. It's always been my philosophy to not let life pass me by. So I just get up every day and I go.
Well, I'm assuming that happened early because reading your bio, I understand you owned a record store at age 19.
Yeah, I opened Stinkweeds when I was 19.
How did that happen?
Well, I graduated from high school a little early, and I went on a scholarship to study architecture at ASU. Okay. And what I discovered is that I'm not very manageable. So okay. I decided that school wasn't for me. And
so you didn't finish the architecture route?
Not at all. I dropped out and opened a record store. But the best part is my family was actually supportive. You know, when you go home and you say, actually, I'm just going to throw away this full-ride scholarship and not study architecture. I'm going to open a record store. And they went, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
So it's Stinkweeds that we're talking about, and
yes.
It's on Camelback.
Right.
So
that's my fourth location, though.
That's your fourth location.
Yes, I started in '87 at Dobson and Guadalupe, and then I moved it to Dobson and Baseline, and then Apache and Dorsey, and then this location.
Wow. So I mean, at age 19, that's.
It was, you know, I started very, very small. I sold everything that I had, and I worked 80 hours a week for $500 a month for 2 years, pretty much. I had a '77 Vega, and I drove home, and I drove to work, and I drove home, and I drove to work.
So I mean, you were driven at an early age, obviously.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. But I always loved what I did, and I knew it was going to take a lot of reinvestment because I started so small. When I opened, I had 16 CDs and 2,500 albums used that were all mine, and about $6,000 or $7,000 worth of new inventory that I ordered in.
And now you have.
I don't even know. I don't even know.
But let's talk about that. I understand you're the only female a majority owner of a record store.
Yes.
In the United States?
Yes, it's a very male-dominated industry that I'm in. And
now, why is that?
You know, I don't know, but my customers are primarily male as well.
Really?
You know, oh yeah, it's rare to have a single woman come in by herself and buy music.
I would have never, I had no idea.
Yeah, most of my customers are males, and the females that do come in are often with husbands or boyfriends. And so, or they're with a group of girls that chit-chat about everything and kind of just want to hang out. And it sounds like I'm insulting women. I don't mean to. I champion the ones who do come in. But my theory is that from a young age, because of mass media, all of their extra dollars goes towards handbags and shoes and makeup. And then there were those of us that were a little bit more on the tomboy side that spent all of our money on music. So that's my theory.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing that in 2007,
yeah,
that you're the only female.
I know.
I mean,
well, also record stores are closing left and right.
How do you feel about that?
I'm heartbroken, but honestly, I think there's great stores that are doing very, very well. I mean, I just had last year the best holiday season I've ever had. So it's really about redefining record stores, and I think people really thrive to have unique, great experiences, and they forget about them when they start going to all these national chain stores and having the same experience no matter where they go.
Your place is very unique.
They walk in and they go, wait a minute, yeah. I actually forgot what this felt like.
And it's cool.
You know, we have 90 listening posts. We have a staff that loves music that can help you. You can say, I love Johnny Cash. What's new that I might like?
It is so personable when I go into Stinkweeds.
It is.
They really take whatever you're looking for. They try to help. I mean, it's not like, oh, we don't have it or we can't get it.
Right. Well, I wouldn't hire anyone that had the typical record store, you know, the Jack Black of the music industry. no room at the inn in my store for sure.
Well, let's talk about your musician. So what exactly, give us a little backstory. What have you done musically?
Well, it was funny. I grew up, my father was a musician, my grandfather was a musician, and so I studied piano, and then I studied guitar. And then I sort of walked away from everything when I opened Stinkweeds because I was so, one-track mind, getting this thing off the ground. Then I had a customer that kept coming in and asking me to come over and play the drums. He heard my father was a drummer, and I said, I don't play the drums. He came by 2 or 3 more times, and finally I was like, creepo, I don't play the drums. What are you talking about? He goes, no, I just live down the street, really, come on over. I borrowed a kit, it's set up in my living room. And so I was like, all right, I liked the guy, I really did, and I was like, okay, so, and we listened to the same kind of music. So I went over that day, and we ended up playing together 3 times a week for 7 years. And
holy cow.
we released 3 CDs and did 2 tours.
And you're playing the drums?
Yeah.
I thought you didn't play the drums, though.
No.
I mean, what? So you just went in there and picked up the drums?
I discovered that I did play the drums. It just came out. Yeah, now I would say that I don't play the guitar or the piano. This is how I would describe it. I'm a crafts person on those instruments. I can play, but if somebody ever said take it in the middle of a song, I wouldn't know where to go. But on the drums, I'm actually a musician. It's what I'm supposed to be playing. But I would have never known had he not pushed.
So are you still in a band?
Yes, that was 4 bands ago, and now I'm in a band that we're all, late 30s and not trying to be rock stars, and now it's really just kind of a creative outlet where I can just go and disappear in it for a little while.
So what's the name of the band, and more importantly, what's the sound? What are you guys going with?
Currently I'm in a band called Let Down Right.
Let Down Right? Okay.
I would just describe it as an indie rock band, but I think that the songwriting is creative. It's we have one guitarist that also plays keyboards and goes back and forth, and another guitarist that sings, and then bass and drums.
And so you're playing drums?
Yeah, that's what I do.
And you guys play here in town? You tour?
It's always a little shocking, I think, to people because I seem pretty mild-mannered, and I'm just like, crack! But that just is me, so.
So the sound is just sort of an indie sound, or what's the
Yeah, it's basically indie rock.
Okay. What are your favorite types of music that you like to listen to?
I've always gone through phases, and right now I would say I'm listening to a lot of singer-songwriters. I like? Acoustic, Rocky Vodolato, I really like a lot, Iron and Wine, Jose Gonzalez.
So obviously you're a musician and you're into music. Is that how Modified, what was the concept behind Modified?
Modified grew out of Stinkweeds because at Stinkweeds we always had live music, and I chose to show local art on the walls. Okay. So we got to the point where the walls were literally booked a year out, and I was doing 3 or 4 shows a week in the record store.
So it started out as an art gallery?
Modified, yes. It started out as a community space.
Okay.
I pulled together a group of 40 musicians, painters, dancers, poets, and I said, we all share one thing, and that is we don't have a place to share our work.
Okay.
And I found this great building, and I can run it, I can run the back end, but it's going to have to be community run. There's going to have to be a lot of volunteer hours involved, but we all need it. But I can spearhead it. Stop me now if you think I'm crazy. And they said, no, let's do it. And I passed around a sheet that literally was a sign-up sheet. What can you contribute to this project? And there were plenty of people who said it would never work. And
aren't there always people?
Oh,
no matter what the project is, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like what they love to say, right?
Well, in fact, that's my gauge. If I'm not doing something where everybody's telling me it won't work, then it's not worth my time.
Well, Modified's obviously worked.
9 years later, it's still volunteer run. We're open 5-6 nights a week. We have a regular film series. We have live music 3 or 4 nights a week. We have respected gallery receptions on 1st and 3rd Fridays. So and now I'm on a street with 6, 8, 10 other gallery spaces, which when I opened there was nothing here but Libations Unlimited, the liquor store across the street.
Roosevelt at one time was a little scary, and now
it's... It was very rough when I got here. A Pizza Hut would not deliver to my bands when I opened at Modified.
Now let's talk, how are you getting groups? I mean, you get some pretty good sized name groups to play at Modified.
Yes.
How are you doing that?
Well, first of all, they know we'll treat the bands right.
Okay.
Secondly, they know that I'm not going to take very much money from the door.
Okay.
So when you look at it from an agency's point of view, you're playing in Los Angeles to 600 people. That's what your band's going to bring in, 600 or 700 people. You've got to stop in Phoenix, and you know there's only going to be 150 people in Phoenix.
I mean, what does modified hold? What's the fire?
150.
That's the fire code on it.
So, so you want to try to play in a place where the bands are going to have a good time, where people are actually going to pay attention to the bands, and where they're going to get the highest percentage of the money coming in the door. So I know what my bottom line is, and when these bands are coming through, I'm willing to go all the way down to my bottom line and give the bands everything else just to encourage them to stop here. At first, when I started telling the agencies what I was willing to do, I mean, at the record store, it started with a band called Rex that I loved, and I saw that they were going to play in Tucson. So I called the agency and I said, hey, I know this is crazy, but I've got a little stage I put in. Let's have them play at the record store. I know I could get 100 kids here to pay $5 a head, and I'll just give the band $500.
So you can almost guarantee that
yeah.
money, right?
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
And they didn't believe me at first. You're just going to give the band all the money. And I said, yeah, why not?
They're like, you're a little wacky.
Well, once they discovered it, it was like the floodgates opened, and then all the bands started coming through. And that's really kind of how it started, because they were all skipping from Austin to LA or San Diego to Dallas or whatever they were doing. A lot of them were maybe stopping in Tucson.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm so competitive that, you know, if you're stopping in Albuquerque, you better be coming to Phoenix, because otherwise you're going to hear it from me.
You have to spend a lot of time doing that, though, don't you?
That's an insane amount of work. It really is.
I mean, so you're running Stinkweeds.
Right.
You're booking Modified. Mm-hmm. We haven't got to your activist role.
Right. Well, Modified is really actually two separate things in one, because the gallery is actually really time consuming as well. A lot of people don't realize that, but I mean, I do press releases, installations, studio visits. We have off-site installations. We have one up at an architectural firm called Orcott and Winslow and the downtown U of A Science School right now that I sort of oversee the installation of. We have to change those out regularly. So there's two things going on with Modified. But I have to interject too that Stinkweeds, I do have a wonderful manager that's been with me 7 years now, and so Stinkweeds is not the amount of work that it used to be for me.
Well,
so
you've taken on other projects.
Yes.
So Local First Arizona, what exactly is that all about, and what is your role in that organization?
Well, I'm the executive director.
So you have a very small role.
Yes. It is a coalition of locally owned businesses that are trying to educate consumers about the importance of supporting local business.
And how many businesses?
We have about 850 members right now.
That's a lot.
But I think what people don't understand is the economics behind national chains. What happens when you spend $100 in a local business is $42 recirculates within the community.
You've done some research, obviously.
Oh, yeah. We have a civic economic study coming out shortly that's going to show us how much money we're losing and how many jobs we lost by awarding the state office supply contract to Staples. So, yes. Yeah. But for $100 that you spend in a local business, $42 remains here. For that same $100 spent in a national chain, only $13 stays here.
That's a huge difference.
Huge, 3 times the payback. So what you feel you might be saving today, you're really robbing the next generation.
I mean, once again, the original question was, when do you sleep? I mean, and honestly, you're doing
intense.
a lot.
I am doing a lot. I mean, I'm happy doing a lot, but it's a little overwhelming. There are days where you feel the pressure of not even being able to keep up with your email. The other day I went into an hour-long meeting and I had 13 voice messages on my cell phone when I came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, Calgon, I can't deal with this.
We'll be back for the second half of our interview with Kimber. But first, we'd like to take a quick break for a community message from SCF Arizona.
Every day in Arizona, someone gets hurt at work. Whether you're an employer or an employee, SCF Arizona helps you make safety part of the job. Our annual Safety Works Expo offers inexpensive classes, materials, OSHA certifications, and more. You can learn new techniques to prevent injuries and network with safety professionals. For information, call 602-631-2701 or go to www.scfaz.com.
Welcome back to IAM. We're at the Lost Leaf with artist and arts advocate Kimber Lanning.
We are very happy that you have the time to spend to be on the show.
Sure.
I knew you did a ton of stuff. You've won numerous awards for being an advocate of the community. Why did you stay in Phoenix? Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you go to where it was already happening? San Francisco, Chicago, New York. Why did you stay here when there was nothing happening?
Right. I stayed here for a few reasons. One is simply that I love it here.
Okay.
And I'm a big family person. You know, my nephews are growing up, and I don't want to live on the other side of the country. I want to be close to my family. Secondly, I want to be an innovator. You know, I would much rather buy an abandoned old building and make something out of it than to join the hubbub in a place like New York, for example, where I'd never be able to buy anything.
Okay. So there's a lot more opportunity here. Is that what you saw?
To me, this tells you a lot about people. Do you see it as half empty or half full? I chose to see it as half full, and I wanted to build on it. And one thing I don't do is complain. I just decided to jump in and make it better. So.
Where would you say that the downtown Phoenix area is, percentage-wise, or from where it needs to be, or in your mind, your vision of where you think it should be?
That's a tough question for me, because you're going to get me going down a path that makes me sound negative, which normally I'm not, but I'm extremely frustrated with leadership in Phoenix.
Okay.
Extremely frustrated. Because I believe that all of the emphasis is being placed on larger projects.
We do have a lot of
Larger
big
projects are
condo
important.
projects happening.
They're all very important,
Yeah.
but not without protecting the small and nurturing the small.
And you're certainly about that with your organization, because those
Right, but-
850 businesses are all small businesses, are they not?
Well, some of them are large. They're all local businesses,
Local.
but they also include, you know, Bashas', Harkins,
So they're pretty good
Shamrock.
size, yeah.
Some of them are big. The key is that they're all local, but I certainly do champion what I call small wonders, which are places like this that, you know, when you have, this is how I describe it. If you have friends in town from New York, are you going to take them to Chili's? Really?
Well, there's the Chili's in New York, right? I mean,
Right.
why would
So
I-
you're going to take them to something that's uniquely
Right.
Phoenix,
Hopefully
that's uniquely
Carly's or-
Arizona.
or
Yeah.
the Leaf or
yeah.
something,
This
yeah.
is what we do here, you know, or Matt's Big Breakfast in the
Yeah.
morning, or whatever
What makes
you're
it
gonna do.
unique to Phoenix, right? Or the Valley, yes.
Right, and that's what that's the takeaway. You know,
Okay.
nobody comes to town, or I'll put it this way: nobody comes back from Chicago and says, "Man, they had a Target and an HMV and a Chili's all on the same block." I love Chicago. That's not what makes Chicago great.
You're absolutely right.
And so here, why do we have to consistently remind our city leaders of that? Adaptive reuse, the reuse of older buildings, infill, density, unique experience, that's what makes a city great. Now, I'm not saying we don't need the large. We need the
You just
convention
want some
center.
balance.
We need the hotels.
I'm hearing some balance, right?
Yeah, you can't just allow developers to just level entire blocks and put up these enormous structures that you don't even want to walk by. I mean, think about how much walking you do when you're in Chicago or New York. Now think about who in their right mind walks from Roosevelt to Van Buren. It's 1 mile. Who would do it? Nobody.
Yeah.
You got dirt lots, you got giant concrete structures.
So you see a lot of work
We need
still
to
needs to be
bring
done.
it down
Yeah.
to pedestrian scale, and it's not rocket science. But we have a lot of obstacles here, planning and zoning issues. You know, the dirt lot across the street from Modified has changed hands 3 times in 5 years.
Wow.
What they do, with this little trick that they do, is they buy it and they get an architect to draw up fancy plans, and then they get it rezoned for a higher variance. You know,
Yeah.
so you start at 3
More-
stories,
more
and then it's
density,
8 stories, and then you sell it because it's now worth 3 times what it was when you bought it last year.
I see.
And they do that over and over again. And I get frustrated because we don't have the leadership that calls that blows the whistle on those.
Okay.
They just kind of go, "Oh, you're from California. Maybe it'll be great. Where do I sign?" You know, it's kind of frustrating.
Well, we need people like you in Phoenix, and I'm happy to hear that you're not going. You're staying.
No, I'm staying. I'm staying.
So after all of these years, you're happy with what you did? I mean,
Absolutely, I wouldn't change it for anything.
there's still a lot that needs to happen,
Absolutely.
but you feel positive about that it's going to happen?
I do. Well, you know, it's more of a big picture. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, but I do feel good about what I've done, and I feel like I've touched a lot of lives, and that's really, I tell people I'm a social worker cleverly disguised as a record store owner, kind of.
So the reason you promote the arts, the reason you promote the local music scene, that you help businesses, I know you were instrumental in helping the Leaf get going. What's the reason you do that?
I think I just love people, and I think the thing that's really rewarding to me most is to watch a kid, and I use the term kid very loosely, somebody who's trying to figure out who they're going to be in their life, and then having them discover music or art or something that's really that pivotal point where they turn and they do something really productive when they were just about ready to drop out of everything.
Right.
That's huge to me, and that's what I'll remember when I'm a little old lady, for sure.
A couple of other things that I know you're involved in. There's probably some I don't know. Silverplatter.org.
.info.
.info, sorry.
Oh,
.info.
that's okay.
What is that?
I'm very excited about it. That's my newest endeavor, and it is just a listserv and website for live music in Phoenix. So it can be a coffee shop that has original music, and it can be the Dodge Theater. But
So
it's-
every place is on
we
there
have
pretty much?
62 venues.
So you had nothing to do in your spare time that you thought you would set up.
This was really important, though.
Oh, it's
I mean,
extremely important, but it's like,
Right. No, I understand. I understand it's a little crazy, but
it's great for the community, though.
Right.
What's
Well,
the response been?
the response has been huge. I mean, I don't think that anybody else is doing this anywhere else in the country. So I went out and found a really good friend that designs websites, and together we built a site that it divides it up by the nights of the week. So people are becoming, we're having to reinvent the wheel because people are becoming more immediate and they have less time.
So they want to know what's going on tonight or tomorrow night, right? Like
yeah,
Monday night,
so
Tuesday
in
night.
your inbox, you're going to have a listing divided up by nights of the week every week. So Monday night, this is who's in town. So say you have friends coming in from New York on Thursday, you can just go one place, find out what's going on across the
That's
valley.
amazing. And it's a free service?
It's free, and you can click for tickets, you can click for Map It, you can click for age restrictions, you can go to the venue website, you can listen to the bands. We're trying to be as comprehensive as possible. And if we miss shows, we have a button, Tips for Silver Platter, so people can email us.
So the name again, so people know it, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to see the show and go, they didn't know that existed. It just came out recently.
Yeah, it just launched this week, actually. It's silverplatter.info.
Silverplatter.info.
Yeah, and that comes from an interview I did where I was frustrated with people complaining about the music scene but not going at all. So I said, what do people think, that a music scene is just handed to them on a silver platter?
Okay.
You have to create it. So,
Right. Yeah.
I was brushing my teeth one morning. All my best ideas come when I'm brushing my teeth. I don't know what that's all about, but every business I've ever named came to me that way.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I thought silver platter, that's what it's going to be, because you can't get any more specific than this.
What keeps you motivated? You may have some other ideas coming up too. Am I missing?
yeah.
I mean, you got another project going on?
If there was more time in the day, I could start 3 more businesses tomorrow.
That's amazing.
But one thing I want to add about Silver Platter that we're trying to do is, for example, like with Eric here at the Lost Sleep, I'll use my venue, Modified, which is 2 doors down,
Right.
as an example. Underneath the listing for a Modified show on a Thursday night, we're going to offer Eric or Carly's across the street to do a real targeted small banner ad that fits right there that says, come on over with your hand stamp for $2 drink specials or whatever.
So you're really trying to get a community
It's
going then.
everything I do is community based. I want, placemaking and community building is at the root of every single thing I've ever done.
What is the key, so we can all learn, what is the key to your success? What's the key to success?
I think just hard work and being willing to take big risks. And being passionate about what I do. I think people get that I'm really into things, and so it kind of is contagious.
So you're doing everything you want to do?
Yeah, I am.
What
There's a couple more things I would like to do.
What are you most proud about? Your community activist area? I mean, you've won some awards. You're the Modified, the Stinkweeds, Silver Platter?
I would say really just that I feel like I've been able to help build a community here. I think that's, it kind of encompasses all the things that I do, but the fact that I've been able to impact some lives, I think, and provide space for people to share their art and help build community, all of those things are all tied together to me. And in a nutshell, that's what I do, and that's what I'm proud that I do.
What if Magic Wand went by and you couldn't do what you're doing now? You couldn't be involved in the arts, couldn't be involved in the community. You couldn't have a record store. What do you think you'd do? What field would you be in? Obviously, architecture you tried, and that wasn't it early on back. But what would you do if you couldn't do that? If you couldn't do what you're doing now?
I don't know.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've never really thought about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would probably just travel.
Travel.
Yeah, that would probably be my first choice.
Well, the name of our program, of course, is Inside the Artist's Mind. So we're going to ask you what's inside your mind.
A whole bunch of clunky stuff.
Yeah.
I think for me, what's in my mind every day is what can I do? What's next?
And you just continue to do.
Right.
And do. I mean, and I'm getting the feeling that you're not giving up anytime soon. Is
No.
that correct?
Yeah,
You're
no,
looking
I
at
still
this
got
for
a lot to
another
fight.
a year, 5 years, 10. I mean, a couple
Oh,
more
I
years.
don't know. Yeah, a while. Yeah, I've got a lot of fight left in me. And like I said, I have other business ideas. So if certain businesses change or are redefined, there's going to be something else there.
Well, Kimber, thanks so much for being on the
Of
show.
course. Thanks for having me.
And I definitely want to catch up with you down the road if you have the time,
Sure.
because who knows, another year or two what you're doing.
Sure, anytime.
Thanks so much.
You bet.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show. And remember, if you want to check out the local music scene, go to silverplatter.info. Now, on next month's show, we're going to meet local filmmaker Dr. Penelope Price. It is a great show, and you do not want to miss it. Until next time. For more information on our show, contact us at 480-969-3789 or drop us a line at moreinfo@iamtvshow.com.